Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about the 4 things to concentrate on to develop dynamic, accurate, and in tune finger action. Let's start. The first thing you want to concentrate on is the form of your hand. You have to have really good form in order for your fingers to function properly. That includes lifting your heart, bringing your elbow under, being able to have your hand in a position so that your fingers can operate. Because remember, the fingers only operate from this base knuckle on the violin. If you start involving anything else, it gets very awkward. You'll never be in tune, and it just doesn't work. So the first thing is to develop really good form with your left hand. Now what that looks like on the violin is that the knuckles have to be even with the fingerboard. And whatever you have to do with your heart and bringing your elbow under to make that happen and to the position of the thumb, you have to do that in order to make that a functional form. So that's the first thing. Find really good form with your hand so that the other reason for this is what most beginning students will do is they'll do this with their hand and then they'll move their hand every time they want to place a note down. And so you really want to avoid that. Come underneath where your fingers are over the fingerboard. And then the only action that you're doing is the action at the knuckle. So the first thing is come under enough so that your 4th finger can be curved like this, and that your hand is in the proper position so that you can really find proper functioning with your fingers. The second thing has to do with the action of the fingers themselves. It's very easy to think that the smaller motion that you do with your fingers, the faster you can go because it's smaller, right? But actually the opposite is true. The muscles that actually move your hand and move your fingers are quite large. They're actually, your fingers are connected by tendons that go down into your arm. And then this muscle right here is quite large. Now, if you try to do too small of a motion with that big muscle, it just doesn't work efficiently. So you actually have to have quite a bit of motion in order to play fast. There's a famous story I tell my students is that Heifetz had someone film him when he was playing like Horace Staccato or something quite fast. And they filmed it and then they played it back in slow motion. He was like, oh, I want to see that. And you can see it online on YouTube. He's playing quickly, but his fingers are just flying up like this and coming back down, right? So the idea is that in order to really have good finger action, you have to have enough movement in your fingers in order for the muscle to engage so that it really works properly. Now, how this looks is, we call this the lifting action. And the lifting action basically means that you're lifting your fingers enough to engage that muscle so that it can engage coming down again. And so the idea, the practice, is that you actually practice lifting your fingers. And my teacher used to teach this to me in a funny way. He said, imagine the fingerboard is a hot pan and you're touching it. And so you go down slow with your 2nd finger, go down slow. And then as soon as you touch the string, come back up like that. Like that, and lift. You can do that with all the fingers. And so what this does is actually develops the action of the muscle, being able to lift quickly. The second principle of what we're talking about is lifting action, lifting your fingers high. So the third is the opposite of lifting action. It's called hammer action. So where after you lift your fingers high, the action in order to play efficiently on the violin is you strike the string, but you don't hold it there. And it's like with a hammer. If you're hitting a nail, you don't go gong like that, right? You go bam, 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 right? So it hits the string and bounces back up. So it coincides with lifting action. And the idea is that you want to hit the string with your finger, but not bind your hand as you hit it. So the idea is when you hit it, you don't have to necessarily even release upward, but you just release the pressure on the string. And that really creates an ability to really go fast and accurately on the string like that. So the third principle is hammer action. And the last principle is, putting all these things together, you have to have really good form, have lifting action, and then hammer action. Now you want to make sure that when you're doing these things, you're in the correct pathway. So the pathway is basically, you have your form so that you're over the string with your fingers. And now when you lift, you want the pathway to be straight up over the fingerboard, like that. What students sometimes do is they'll bring their finger here, or they'll start moving their hand and doing that. And you're guaranteed to be out of tune if you do that. So the idea is you want it here, a stable hand form, and then the lifting action is just in the fingers. And that the pathway is just straight up over the fingerboard and straight down. Like that. So if you can do those four things, concentrate on really good form with your hand. Make sure that you're practicing developing the lifting action with your fingers, practicing the hammer action, striking and releasing, and then practicing that all those things are functioning with the correct pathway on your violin. You're really guaranteed to have a great technique in your left hand. Now, making sure that your thumb is also in the correct place, right? You're not creating tension in your hand. But if you do those four things and practice them, you develop an ability around your fingers that doesn't include tension. And it makes it very, very dynamic to be able to play whatever you'd like. Okay, I hope that helps. And again, my name is Anthony. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. Thank you.